for those of you who know me, I grew up, or I was mentored by a faculty member at the University of Florida who used to say, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, don't bother showing up. And so people have noticed in me when I'm late for meetings, I get kind of twitchy because it really goes against the fiber of my being. So thank you. I realize I'm only 3 minutes late, but to me it feels like an hour, and I'm going to take deep breaths to not hyperventilate as I begin. But thank you all for being here today, and for your patience as I left the twice yearly Board of Agriculture meeting. For those of you who don't know what the Board of Ag is, it's actually in legislative statute that a Board of Agriculture convenes twice a year to advise the university and the University of Maine System Administration on issues pertaining to agriculture. And so it's an incredibly big deal. We had over 50 on the Zoom, and the chancellor and the provost and the president were all there for the full 2 hours. And the chancellor opened up his comments with, "I work for Hannah Carter," to which, boom, mic drop. I mean, come on, we're done. I was like, I may have opened my comments with, apparently we've upended the system and now I can make all the approvals that we were once waiting on, right? Right? Yeah, it's a little Tuesday afternoon humor for you. So yeah, it was a meeting that I could not leave until everybody else left. So again, but here we are. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. This is a weird month for so many different reasons. I think one of the biggest ones is, again, thank you for us moving this whole extension connections seemingly all around, just because of the podcast that the president and I finally did record last week, and then a snowstorm and all of the other things. So it's been a long road getting here, but we're here. And my focus today is obviously doing a few FYIs and just reminders. But then one of the biggest things that happened last month in January was our budget hearing. And this is new for me. Apparently Dennis has been a part of these in the past, but it's something that the president and the provost reinstituted, where every unit on campus, and extension is one of the units on campus, had to present their organization to the president and her cabinet. We had a set of prescribed PowerPoint slides to do that in, and so what I've done is, I can't present the whole budget hearing just because for the sake of time, but I wanted to highlight some of the things, so I pulled those slides right in. So if they look horrible, it's because we were made to use their template, and we could not take creative license with them. So and hopefully at the end of the time, I want to build in enough time for questions, because I know there's still a lot. We're still, as I mentioned to the Board of Ag, I feel like we're still continuing to build the plane as we fly it, just because of this COVID world that we live in. So let me see if I can, again, it seems like every time I do this, it's always new. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you're going to see all sorts of other screens because it's never an easy process for me. So hold on tight. Okay, can everybody see my extension connections?
Yes.
Yes, awesome. Okay, yes. Okay, so we'll technology hasn't failed me yet. Okay, so I was reminded earlier in an email that it is Taco Tuesday if you're celebrating. If I survive today, tacos may be in my future. Hopefully my slide advanced so you see live every day like it's Taco Tuesday. Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. I need validation. It's been a long day. So so budget hearing, and talk a little bit about what's ahead, and then certainly leave enough time for questions at the end. One of the things that I do want to mention, and so I'm on notes. Hold on just a second. We're gonna change that. Thank you for, apparently I can read chat. Hold on. Uno momento, por favor. That's about the only Spanish that I know. I'm going to switch my screens because that sometimes helps me. So can everybody see the Safer Community app? Yay.
Yes.
Yes, good. All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of things in regards to testing. The first of which is there's a lot going on, as you are all well aware. For those of you who are outside of the Orono-Penobscot County community, I feel like we've got this testing thing down. Our county offices, our camps, those of you who are not testing on campus, seemingly, knock on wood, going really well. And that is also talked about in all the meetings that I'm in, is we can't quite figure out how it's going here on campus, but everybody else is doing a great job. So before I talk about the on-campus testing, I just want to say thank you to everybody, especially our testing monitors. Again, thank you for volunteering to do so. We understand, again, this weekly testing, it's a lot, and we know it's a lot. But as I was talking to one of my family members the other day, once we do get up and running, it is a little bit, it's kind of nice to know, well, at least once a week, I'll kind of have something in hand that says I'm good to go, even though I feel like I'm good to go. So for our Orono campus community, and by campus community, I mean those of you who are all in Penobscot County that get the opportunity to test here on campus. I know several of you were part of that first initial day that went badly, apparently, according to everybody. So badly, in fact, they shut it all down and started over again to try to figure out what's going to happen. And so my appointment is on Friday, so I'll go on Friday at 2 o'clock. My app is downloaded, and so again, if you are part of the on-campus or Orono area community, obviously they've asked to download this app. If you do not have a smartphone or do not want to download the app, that's fine. They'll help you at the testing site. The biggest thing I've heard is make sure to bring your main card to your testing appointment. If nothing else, bring your main card. And the other thing is, and this is where I haven't used these words in a while, flexibility and grace. Because again, I think things are changing, and Fran probably can attest to this as well, changing on a daily and or weekly basis. At first we heard everybody was going to be tested, and I was in a meeting that said, even if you come and check the mail once a week, you still will have to be tested. That has been eased up, not only for our Orono-based people, but for our county offices as well. And so I go to this second or third bullet is, if you aren't in your office, on a regular basis, then again, email the umaine.covidtesting@maine.edu and just say that you are not in your office on a regular basis and that you're opting out. Because again, it seems like there's been a little bit more flexibility in that regard. Fran, again, publicly want to thank you, because all our questions are going to Fran, and she's been in communication with Dick Young and UMaine HR about testing and whatnot. So I just want to put that out there. Hopefully this week we'll work out some of the bugs, and then it'll just become part of the work week. Some other FYIs in relation to COVID that I think are really important, and some of this is pretty late breaking news as of even a meeting on yesterday. We had a meeting yesterday with Chip Gavin from the system, who really does a lot of the risk management work and does a lot of the decision making. We asked about travel, because I know that's a question that you all have as well, out-of-state travel, what that's going to look like. And I wrote this down. So new system guidance on travel will be coming out soon. What does soon mean, you would ask? Hopefully in the next couple weeks, we were told, because again, there's a lot of questions about out-of-state travel, especially. And so again, guidance on travel is going to be updated and hopefully come out in the next couple weeks. There is a large group from across the system that is meeting to discuss what summer programming will look like. Now, by summer programming, I mean 4-H programming, I mean our camps and learning center programming. I even mean some of our programming that we do in regards to like ag field days. And we've been positively, cautiously optimistic about what it may look like. One of the points I brought up to Chip yesterday was that last year, the system guidelines and the state guidelines were actually not equivalent. Like the system was more conservative than the state, and that was in regards to even like outdoor programming and the number of people you could have. And so he did acknowledge that, and again, what we think is going to happen is that we're going to be able to follow whatever main CDC guidelines are when it comes to our summer programming. But again, hold tight, we're still working through that. But certainly would have implications to a lot of the programming that we do. 2 other points that go to summer. Frustrations were around summer hiring, and whether that was in our camps or whether that was our IPM scouts or whatever. We have actually made a request to be able to batch hire all our summer employees. And that would mean that they wouldn't have to go individually through up that frustrating system of approvals at all levels. Again, even though the chancellor said he worked for me, I don't really hold him to it. So again, all those levels. And so they're actually taking that under consideration right now. And the provost said that he will let me know. If we could batch hire folks, it would make life a lot easier and a lot less frustrating. So stay tuned with that. The other thing we talked about, and again, processes and procedures, probably what's going to happen for our summer programs or for our programs of any sort is we're still going to have to go through the same sort of policy that or guidelines that we did before, that we're going to have to make some requests of, you will request it, I'll take it to the EOC first on campus, get their blessing of it, and then we'll take it up the chain to get approvals for it. So that will pretty much stay the same as it did last year. We did get a little information yesterday about vaccinations, because I feel like that's number one on everybody's mind as we look at how the vaccine programs are rolling out. So Chip yesterday just said what I had put on the slide. Number one, the system will not require vaccines of employees while the vaccines are under the emergency use status. And so as you all know, all 3 vaccines now that are approved by the federal government are under emergency use status. And so while that is occurring, the system will not require any employees to get the vaccine, but boy, they're going to strongly encourage everybody to get the vaccine. The system is not going to have at this point in time direct access to any vaccines. I know we were all kind of hoping that there'd be a vaccine clinic, right out in the parking lot that we could all drive through, easy peasy, like the flu shot. Apparently that's not going to happen. And so we're all going to have to just fall. I think we're all just going to have to watch the news and hope that, the state comes up with their vaccination registration website. And again, that we all find our spot at some point in time, and that states are given more vaccines quicker. So that's what I know in that regard right now. And again, if anything changes, I'll certainly let you all know as well. January, I do want to make just a few notes about January, because a lot happened in the month of January, and is still happening. I want to mention a few things that are happening on campus that go along with a lot of initiatives that are happening in Extension. The provost actually has a committee. It's called the Provost Advisory Council on Equity, or PACE, and that is to advise the provost on what used to be issues around equity in regards to female faculty members and staff members, but it of course right now has certainly expanded to include factors around diversity, equity, and inclusion, as we all have talked about DEI work. The provost has actually asked if I would step in and chair this group, and we do have several folks from Extension that do belong to this group as well. And so this in regards to both the president's committee on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and now this provost PACE group. And again, I think that's going to have real implications to the work that we do here in Extension. I mentioned that we had our Humane Extension budget hearing. There was also a virtual Humane budget town hall that the provost and the president gave in January. We have several working groups that are now happening here on campus around both the Maine climate change plan, Maine Won't Wait, and also the recommendations that came from the Economic Recovery Committee. Again, Extension has a lot of opportunities in both of those working groups as far as some future directions that we may go, future opportunities to collaborate on positions, those type of things. I'm going to talk about extension internships in a minute because, man, we've got a great group that is working on figuring out how to formalize an extension internship, and I'm really excited. And again, as we look at bright spots and highlights, it's great to think about things that aren't COVID related. I don't know if you all feel about that too, but it's nice to work on something that doesn't directly have a relation to COVID. So that was all kind of what's happening internally. Externally, it was a huge month as well. And I just want to give a shout out to everybody. Extension was certainly well represented. If you looked at the agendas for all the days of the Maine Ag Trade Show, I just really want to thank everybody who not only gave a presentation, but manned a virtual booth and put that all together. There were some issues, as we all know, with technology, but all in all, just incredibly proud of Extension's participation in the Maine Ag Trade Show. We put together and were represented, AgCom, which is the Agricultural Council of Maine, put together a virtual legislative tour for new and incoming state legislators. We put together a couple videos for that. It was very well attended, really great response to Extension. The Maine Landscape and Nursery Association invited me to give their annual meeting keynote during their virtual meeting this year. We also, which was in January, we also participated in the Joint Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee of the legislature, which is the joint both the Senate and the House side coming together. We participated in their meet and greet. If that wasn't enough, just because I really feel like when we look at the future of the state of Maine, again, people have heard me talk about this. We haven't been in the forestry area in a long time due to budgets and retirements and whatnot. I feel like there's going to be opportunities for us to be in that arena. And so I was elected to the Maine Woodlawn Owners Board of Directors and look forward to just learning more about that side of the industry. Again, I grew up on a potato farm, and so I have a lot to learn about trees, I feel like. And then, oh, by the way, there's a lot happening just in the world in January. And again, we all watched the events of January 6th, and then a week later, we watched a new administration being inaugurated. And I feel like we spend a lot of time thinking about that. And again, what is this new legislature, not only on the state level, but also federal level, the new administration, what is that going to mean for Extension? I know probably many of you aren't as geeky as I am, but if you listen to the Senate confirmation hearing of the Secretary of Agriculture, he spent a lot of time talking about the importance of land grant institutions. Wow. Well, we love that. We feel like there's going to be possibly some increased funding, maybe to our capacity funding. We know that there are going to be big priorities placed on our agricultural infrastructure across land grants, and that will mean a lot for us as well here at the University of Maine. So again, with every administrative change comes new opportunities, and again, just being aware of those. I mentioned internships. I'm breaking the rule of communication. This is a very wordy text, but man, there's been a lot of work that's been done on this. And I just want to share a little bit of background. Again, prior to COVID, when I was traveling around the state and meeting with everybody and trying to figure out, what Extension looked like here, one of the things that I thought of borrowing from my former institution was this idea of Extension internships. Because we do such incredible work, and how do we show undergraduates that there's great potential and opportunities, not only within Extension, but within their own communities that they come from in Maine, And how do we, meaning Extension, engage with the undergrads that are here on campus? And so it was always kind of something that I wrote in my notebook, and I had it in future goals. Well, then obviously COVID happened, and we got brought in really quickly on how do we engage students that may have deferred their freshman year here at the university, and this idea of internships came back up. One of the things that goes along with this is we all hear about the L-Fund gift and L-Fund money, and I think a lot of us probably just say, oh, that's not for us. Well, it is, and there is money to be had, and I feel like we may be able to actually take a piece of the L-Fund gift and put it towards our internship program, because it's all around two things: student success and research learning opportunities. And again, every day in Extension, whether it's formal or informal, we're conducting research, and we just have such an incredible opportunity to engage students in everything that we're doing. So as you all remember, in one of these Extension Connections, I put the call out for volunteers for my internship committee. Lisa Phelps agreed to chair it, and I want to send out a shout out to Caitlin Ramsey, who also volunteered to be a part of it. And Caitlin comes with a unique background. She's worked in higher ed administration. She's worked within internship programs and around student success initiatives. And so we've been able to actually buy out a little bit of Caitlin's time to really have some staff support to this. And I think because of that, we've actually been able to get our feet under us a little bit quicker. So I'm not going to read the slide to you. All I do want to mention is that we are working towards doing a pilot run of these internships, and it will be with the faculty and staff who are on our volunteers committee. And then certainly we want to open it up to the whole organization once we do a pilot and work out some bugs and whatnot. But we're really excited about this. I think it's an incredible opportunity, not only for students, but I think it's an incredible opportunity for us to work with some of these bright, shiny minds that are here, take in some new ideas, certainly maybe get some work done, some projects done that we might not be able to get done on our own. This will increase some capacity, and again, just be able to connect us to the undergrads. And our hope is that once we get a really strong internship program established here at the University of Maine, there's no reason why we feel like we can't expand it to the other system campuses. Again, many of you are closer to a different system campus than Orono, and wouldn't it be great if you could, again, tap into the students at the local campus to provide these internship opportunities. So again, happy to answer any questions what you have on this program at the end. So with that, let's talk budgets. And so I said one of the focal points of this Extension Connections was to give you some of what we gave the president and her cabinet for our budget hearing. Now, I want to preface this by saying, and I promise this is true, we do not know what our FY22 budget will be. So I'm going to, if you're all waiting to the end where you'll say, all right, you know, we've got a reduction, we've got an increase, this is what our FY22 budget will be. Sorry to disappoint, we don't know that yet. We may know in another month or so. What we do know, and this came from the virtual town hall on the budget that the president gave, that the governor's budget has pretty much flatlined the university. There is a little bit of an increase actually in funding to early college, but for the most part, there is no reduction to the University of Maine system budget from the state. Now, the governor unveiled her budget before the issue that has come up about the PPP program and state taxes, and so there may be some future discussion on what the governor's budget looks like, but for right now, we're under the impression that we will get the same funding at the system level that we got before. There is a $10 million deficit in the FY21 budget. FY21 is the budget year that we are currently in. This deficit is in one-time money, and we're going to talk about that. So the deficit really comes from auxiliary services. I'm looking out at the dorms that are pretty close to empty. If you think about it, like the university lost money in, you know, the students that are here on campus, dorm rooms, and food, and some of those one-time non-reoccurring monies. And so that $10 million shortfall is in auxiliary services. They feel that they can make up that shortfall with utilizing some CARES Act funding utilizing some reserves that the university has. And so for right now, we're kind of being given the impression that don't worry about that $10 million shortfall. We've got it under control. Maybe that's famous last words, I don't know. But what we do know is that there will be a $7 to $12 million deficit in FY22. You know, on the good end of things, it's 7. On the bad end of things, it's 12. So I say this because when we were given our instructions to come in to make our presentations at the budget hearing, we were told 2 things. Number one, we want an overview of your organization. And if you think about it, the president and the provost certainly were there, but also the Vice President for Student Affairs, Robert Dana, was there. The Vice President of Research, Cody Vonaramian, was there. So there are folks that have no idea really what extension is all about. Some of the folks who belong to the Finance and Budget Office. And so we really actually had to give them Extension 101. And then the other thing we were told to do was be strategic. Don't get in the weeds. Get to the 30,000-foot view and think about the future, because it's all about strategic investment. What we were being told is that with the $7 to $12 million deficit, there will not be an across-the-board budget reduction. The budget reduction will be strategic. So that means some people and some units will be winners and some units will be losers. I took that as a personal challenge to show all the incredible things that not only are we doing, but what we could do with an investment. Because I want to be a winner when it comes to our FY22 budget. So I just want to give you a little bit of my philosophy and mindset as we entered into our budget hearing. So again, here are the horrible slides that they gave us. So first of all, they wanted to know our organizational chart. So I just share this with you all in case you've never seen our organizational chart. We are a lean and mean organization. We do not have a great deal of administrators. We just go out and do things. What I think is interesting, and I shared this at New Faculty Orientation in January, and many of you may not know exactly what our numbers are. So I wanted to share this with all of you so you knew where we are at as far as faculty, professionals, staff, non-rep administrators, and then where we're at with our annual temporary hires. So again, this is just mostly FYI. One of the other things they wanted to know, and this is what kind of make us chuckle in Extension, is they wanted to know our partners across the campus and across the system. Now, for many units on campus, they have very few partners, but for Extension, this is who we are. So what I wanted to share with this is you can see where, okay, so the College of Natural Sciences, Forestry, and Agriculture, you can see where we split appointments. You all are living this, who have a split appointment. Under the UMaine Research Office, the Vice President of Research, if you look at our MEIF funding, if you look at our Sea Grant programs, the Aquaculture Research Institute, and also we have a pending position that would be a joint appointment with the Climate Change Institute. And so you also see pending and planned, and these are positions that have been conditionally approved to move forward. I think I mentioned the Native American Food Sovereignty position in my last Extension Connections. That would be with the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. We do have a professional ag engineer position that we are hopeful to get approved. That will be actually within the Advanced Manufacturing Center, and this has been a real need of the ag industry for several years. This, I just want to highlight one of the wins of January was this position. I can publicly announce this because we've been given every indication that it will move forward. But because of COVID and because of the need in the ag industry around small business, the provost has actually given us the funding to hire a faculty position in small agricultural business. It'll be a joint position with the Maine Business School, which will be the first of its kind to support agricultural small businesses across the state. Again, this is huge because it's a brand new position that the provost is supporting, and we couldn't be more excited about it. So stay tuned with that. I think one of the other things I want to mention, and again, I did share this with the new employee orientation, is many of you may not realize exactly what our funding looks like. And I think it's important. We had to share this with the cabinet, and I wanted to share it with you all with some terminology that I think, just so we can be sure to be all on the right page. So this is what our pie chart looks like. We are fortunate in a lot of ways that we are not actually beholden to one source of funds. Because we have a diversity of funding means we can do a diversity of things. And again, if we get a decrease over here, can we look at increasing other areas? And so that's been a real focal point of mine. Again, my philosophy on budgets are, we are going to get very little increases, if any, in our state appropriation and what the university gives us, this 44%. So what other pieces can we increase so we can increase capacity within extension? I think we have a lot of opportunities in development and philanthropy in that area. Again, we're going to talk about, you all do exceptional work in contracts and grants. I feel like we could build some capacity in that area as well. But what I want to mention is a couple of things. Number one, you see university E&G. First of all, what does E&G mean? It means education in general. It is also interchangeable when we talk about our base budget. We're really talking about this piece of the pie. It's based on our UMaine appropriation for the most part. You hear the term soft money. Soft money is money that is not base budgeted or not our base, part of our base allocation. So it comes in through revenue, comes in through grants, comes in through other areas. We also talk about one-time funds. Again, those funds are not base budgeted. They can occur through salary savings when we, are not able to fill a position. We may get back some of the salary. It happens. We also have one-time funds. We're living in one-time funds right now, and we're going to talk about that in relation to the counties, because guess what? COVID, we couldn't travel. We couldn't buy things like we were used to. So we have one-time funds that are building up, whether it's at the county level, or whether it's at this level. And so again, I just want to use those, or I want to put those terms out there so we all have a clear understanding of what we're talking about. When we look at federal funding, the majority of this federal funding is our Smith-Lever capacity dollars that come through the USDA. And I think that's important because that is a federal allocation. It's a big formula. We can go into that if you ever want to learn things. Anyway, there's a formula and we get this money. What is interesting with that is, according to how the USDA allocates our Smith-Lever dollars, the university has to match those dollars on a one-to-one basis. And so if you look at it, and just, there's some other details that I'm leaving out, but high-level overview, if you look at it, the university overmatches us. And that's, I just want to put a pin in that because we're going to get to that here in a minute. So the university by rights only has to match our federal funding on a one-to-one basis. Are you bored yet? This is a lot. I know I'm covering a lot. We were asked to provide commentary on our FY21 budget, and this is what we provided. And again, this was their slide. I put the big old yes at the bottom of it. But we are doing really well in regards to FY21. We are on target. We're going to end up not in the red, that's every goal. But we're on track with all of our payroll, with our county payroll, with our federal projects. We have generated, as I mentioned before, a great deal of one-time dollars because of the restrictions on travel and spending. Our revenue dependent programs certainly are down a bit. Again, if you look at our 4-H camps and learning centers are solely funded on revenue from camps. And again, that revenue is down. But our grant proposals, while they're down, our success rate is up. And all in all, I just want to, again, give a shout out to everybody because we are, knock on wood, we're on sound financial footing. And I think that is important because as you look at some of the other units across campus, they aren't. And again, that's going to be important as we talk about the future. But we manage our money very well, and that's due to you all, certainly due to Dennis and Michael and Amanda and everybody who has worked within grants and within purchasing and within all those areas. So again, we were very pleased to say that when we conclude when we concluded FY 2020, we were well within budget, and we look to be hopefully in FY 21 as well. So again, this is a lot. This is the slide that they were given us. So I'm going to walk, again, high level, walk you through this. This is, again, welcome to Hannah's brain, if you want a little insight on Hannah's brain. The slide asks, please comment on strategic investments and reductions which you believe would help your unit make progress towards our strategic vision and values. I, number one, chose to ignore reductions. Let's not talk about that. We're only going to talk about strategic investments. We're going to talk about what does it take to get the University of Maine Cooperative Extension to the next level. And again, towards strategic vision and values. Obviously, our programmatic areas. We are not losing sight of our 4-H and our agriculture programmatic areas at all. What can we do to strengthen those areas? Again, I feel good about the dairy position that we're bringing on board. I feel good about this ag business position that we're going to bring on board. I think we have some other gaps that we need to fill both within 4-H and agriculture, again, to support our foundational programmatic areas. I do want to mention aquaculture and communities because I feel like we're doing work in this area. And again, if we could increase capacity, we could probably do more work in this area. Aquaculture, certainly, we are on target to hire actually a fish nutrition faculty member to do a lot of the research with the land-based aquaculture operations that are now moving into the state. We're excited about that. We're also doing some workforce development work within aquaculture. And again, we want to highlight that. We want to, again, bring it forth and say, okay, what else could we do? Around the idea of communities, as we look at Maine communities, as I said, if we look at the climate change report that's come out and we look at some of the educational efforts that need to happen in our communities, that's what Extension's all about. And again, I think there's going to be some federal dollars that go along with education in communities around climate change, around forestry, and we want to be ready to engage with those opportunities if it means it could bring in some faculty and staff to help support those endeavors. I feel like when we look at, again, going back to our camps and learning centers, last year, we couldn't have any camps because, again, COVID, but what our camping staff did was immediately figure out, because of the existing relationships they had, was how do they engage K through 12 schools as we look at outdoor education, as we look at giving kids safe educational opportunities outside. That's what we're all about. We're the leaders in it. Well, I'm planting the flag saying we can do more if given the opportunity. And innovation and entrepreneurship is huge. If you look at the Governor's Economic Recovery Committee and the plan for that, what can we do to support that? And so there's a couple of grant programs that we're looking at to look at how do we bolster our food innovation here on campus, whether that's our food testing services, food safety, and again, the small business ag support will be critical to that. Education and workforce development, the internship piece I've already talked about, engaging students. We feel like there's going to be more opportunities, and again, we're already doing phenomenal work in K through 12 education through our 4-H STEM opportunities. What could we do if we had more resources to bolster those efforts? Certificates and micro-credentials, we're already starting. We already have several certificate programs and micro-credential and badging programs that have already been approved by the system or are in the works. How can we look at increasing that? And then we're going to talk about in a minute our online offerings and what they may look like in the future. We want to be a partner with UMS wherever we can across the state. And then again, we have a wonderful opportunity with our diagnostic and research lab. How do we increase the capacity of that lab and what we can offer in that lab for the people of the state? All of these areas take investment and take strategic investment, and they all pertain to what's happening on campus. So if I can get the cabinet excited about that and they then make investments in that, again, I'm hopeful that we do not look at a budget reduction in FY22 because they were very interested in this slide. We were asked if you had to find a 5% reduction in your base budget, what would you do and what would the impact be? Well, that would take away the dairy specialists. So guess what I did? I got a quote from how important extension is from the dairy industry and put it on this slide. They didn't tell me I couldn't do that. So we don't want to see that happen. We also don't want to not be able to do reclassifications of the people who have been through that process. And then we're going to talk about, as we've been talking about, a full-time instructional designer position that I feel, and I know a lot of you feel like is critically needed as we look at all the programs within Extension across the board. And we've put together several proposals as far as an instructional designer goes, but we can't do anything if there's a 5% budget reduction. I did make them aware that since I have been here, since I've been dean, we have taken a $1.1 million reduction to our base budget. I mean, that hurts. And that's why there are many counties that don't have the positions that you once did. And so I probably harped on that a little too much. Like, hey folks, you've already made us bleed. Don't make us, don't further the bleeding. So just share that. So then they asked us, get this, if you were given a 1% increase, what would you do with it? Well, here's what a 1% increase looks like to our base budget. It's $75,000. Now, I don't want to be ungrateful, but come on, folks. Like, so I shared again the instructional designer piece and how critical it was to Extension because, again, CITL here on campus is supportive of what Extension does, but can't support Extension. I added a few statistics from our communications and marketing team folks, and then thought about if we look at what the future of Extension looks like, we're not going to give up our in-person programs when we can get back to them. But we have done some phenomenal work online, and I know that there's some other work that can be done. And I'm going to share this really quick. It's a screenshot from the University of Florida because, again, it's what I know, and I like to steal from them a lot. But this is what I envision that we can do here at the University of Maine is actually have a page of University of Maine course offerings. If you look down here, there's credits available if there are credits. There's credentialing available. It talks a little bit, gives you a little bit of the details. But again, this is a source of revenue generation for different programs as well. When we go back to how are we going to increase our base, we're going to have to be entrepreneurial about it. And I know many of you are doing work in this area, but if we're going to do it, we really need to say we're doing it and we need to do it well. And that goes back to really having support and people in place that can help make this happen. I know there's probably a lot of questions about this, and certainly I'm happy to answer them. I just wanted to kind of do it as a shock factor to the cabinet, just so they could see what the possibilities are. I also feel like we're missing out on philanthropy, whether it's endowed positions. Again, I think about our dairy faculty position. That could be an endowed position. I don't know why you couldn't endow a deanship, why we couldn't endow programs. As I mentioned, I directed the largest extension program in the state of Florida, and it was an endowed leadership program. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, and I feel like we're missing out because we have not been given the support in that area. And I will have to say, the president wholeheartedly agreed with this. So they asked about restructuring, if there were any plans in place. So I just mentioned what we are currently doing. That there is going to be some restructuring of my administrative team, that we are undergoing this roadmap process that we look forward to hearing more about in our March meeting. And then I do want to mention this, UMaine Extension has never had an extension-wide review at the national level, and I'm putting that as a goal for possibly 2023 because I feel like it's important to see where we're at and to really go through an organizational review process. Again, I'm kind of going through these quickly because I do want to make sure we have time at the end for questions. This was the concluding slide, and I will share these slides with you all. I'm not going to read this big quote from Eric Venturini from the Blueberry Association. Again, I tried to tell Extension's story that would be meaningful to the cabinet. But I did want to share a couple things. These were the things that I challenged the president's cabinet on. And I went back and forth with whether I should do this or not, because it could be looked at as a little bit insubordination in a way. But I really wanted to plant the flag and say, all right, UMaine administrators, what is your philosophy of extension and the importance of extension to the university's land grant mission? I think it's one thing for the provost to say it. I think it's another thing for Joan as president to say it, but what does the cabinet think? I'm going to get to their response in a minute. we keep hearing, we meaning Dennis and I in various meetings, keep hearing that extension is overmatched. That goes back to, remember that funding slide about, the university has to fund us 1-to-1. Every time we hear that we're overmatched, we think, okay, does that mean that they think they get an opportunity to make a budget reduction because of that? We also wanted to mention the importance of one-time funds to extension. These are critically important to how we are able to do business or maintain our buildings or our vehicles or do the projects that we have to do. All of those things are utilized. We utilize one-time funds. And then again, by the way, you main administrators, COVID raised the profile of extension. It's going to be up to you to support us as we move forward. So other items related to money as we come out of the budget hearing. My best case scenario is that we get a small increase to our base budget. I already feel like we may have gotten that. If you look at the small business faculty member that they've given us, that will increase our base budget because it is a base budgeted position. But again, I really want us as an organization to think about how we increase our budget. Base funded versus soft money funded positions, you're going to hear a lot about this. We have several positions, the climate change position being one, the ag engineering position being one, that are not base budgeted positions. They are not coming out of that. They're coming out of other funding lines and opportunities. And that's a mind shift because traditionally positions are base budgeted and they're there and they move forward. But there's opportunities to hire faculty, professionals, and staff if we can think creatively and change our thoughts around soft money positions. We have over $1.2 million in carry forward accounts. And while a lot of these funds are restricted, meaning they are in a county, it's your county appropriation from your county government. There are some funds that aren't. We need to think about, again, how we're utilizing our carry forward money. We still have a little concern in the back of our heads that if they needed to, they would come in and say, all right, extension, you are going to give us X% of your carry forward dollars, and what would that look like? And that leads me to, I know many counties may have one-time funds that, again, they didn't use from their county budget. And again, what does that look like as you're talking to your county commissioners, as you're talking to budget committee members? And again, my advice is be transparent. Due to COVID, due to spending restrictions, due to travel restrictions, we weren't able to utilize these funds, but we would like to hold them over because we have potentially other uses for them, potentially, keep them for next year in case it is a less of a good budgetary year. And again, I just want to say that is we're all kind of in this, we're in this situation. And again, I always feel like transparency is the best policy, as you all know, because I give you way more information than I probably should, but I think that's important. So just real quick on February, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about COVID and testing and summer planning. I know that. I'm also chairing the graduate business school dean search, which is a lot. And there's some other organizations, committees that I'm doing work in. So I told you I would get to how Joan responded to what is your philosophy of cooperative extension, and it's part of being the land grant mission. So I will leave you with this quote. I'm thinking about framing it. If I did cross stitch, I would do a sampler of it and I very much applaud Dennis for writing this down because I was all caught up in the budget hearing itself. But I leave you with this, and I couldn't be more proud to have Joan say there's no backing away from the centrality of extension to this university's mission. So with that, I am going to stop sharing and answer any questions that you may have. Okay, got very quiet.
So while everybody's being quiet, can I say something, Hannah?
Yeah.
A lot of your talk today has been about that budget hearing because it was a big deal. And what everybody might not know is, aside from the characters on the slide presentation, it's really political. And it's really political. It's sort of a test of leadership in a funny kind of way. And I just wanted to say that it was an awesome 45 to 50 minutes that we got with that group, because Hannah, of course, had them wrapped around her little finger with her sort of visionary presentation, incredibly articulate, really upbeat, and she certainly hit a nerve with some of them in ways that really made us chuckle. Things that they all understood our dilemmas. For example, the level of support we get from the Humane Foundation is a sore spot for us, and we want more, and they really jumped on board. They really appreciated that strategic vision and values slide, and it was awesome. And that's all.
Thank you, Dennis.
So my emoji didn't make any noise, so I'll just go like this. Good. You're very impressive, Hannah. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's only a reflection of how impressive you all are. So again, my job here is to try to remove obstacles, and I appreciate Dennis saying that. I will have to say the provost did call me after, actually he FaceTimed me, which is totally unnerving, after our budget hearing to say how awesome it was. And I said, I bet you say that to all your units. And he said, no, this is the only call I've made like this one. So I'm hopeful that means we're going to get something out of it. I feel like, as I said, we're already getting some things out of it. I see Jason's question. I'm going to bat it over to Fran to see what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I was originally told by the testing folks that if someone came to campus at all during the day, during the work day, that they needed to test. And then about a week and a half ago, the president, maybe 2 weeks ago, the president said, if you come on occasion, maybe just to pick something up, once or twice in a month, you don't have to test. So I, changed the bar to that. So yeah, that's where I think it is now. So you really, in fact, originally they said, don't come to campus. If you have to pick something up, just come on nights and weekends if you are in that kind of status, so that you don't have to worry about testing. So I think Joan did tweak it a little bit, but it's just meant for someone who's swinging through, and not someone who's working in any capacity. That's how I view it at this point.
Couple questions. This is it's an interesting one. Do we need to know from us when we get vaccinated? I don't know. Fran, do we need to know if people get vaccinated?
I don't think so. I mean, I could put it on my list and ask. I've got a couple of questions, things that have come up for the testing people, so I can ask, but my gut says no.
And I'm looking at a couple other questions in regards to testing and whatnot, and vaccines. There has been some talk about possibly university employees being part of education, but I have not heard anything really formalized in that regard. Even the president mentioned it during one of her calls last week. Again, I think it's the CDC that makes those who belongs in what group. I know, I feel like if we could make the case for all university folks to be part of 1B, we would absolutely do so. And I think they're trying to make that case, but again, I feel like it's out of the system hands at this point in time. I'm trying to make the Native American food sovereignty position. I think there's going to be opportunities. We're going to have a couple of our folks on the search committee for that position, and I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to engage with that person once we get them on board. So stay tuned for that. I'm just looking. I've been curious about Fund 112 program funds. Dennis, are there restrictions on the use of those, all related to the potential of those funds being absorbed by the university?
Are there restrictions on the use of those funds, potential for being absorbed by the university? Yes. Fund 12 is our E&G funds. And certainly that is, even though it's almost all revenue generated by people on our staff, They're generating it in the name of the university. It's university money. But we believe really strongly that we'll have a good chance to justify why some of those, most of them, in fact, need to be held to fund programs. And you know, I'm pretty hopeful if something comes down that we will be hit minimally in those accounts. That's my hope, anyway.
And I know there's a lot of questions, and again, I feel like this has a lot to do with campus communication. And so obviously they talk about campus testing, but by campus, they really do mean like, and again, I know we've had questions about the DRL. We've had questions about our 4-H office on College Avenue and 491 College Avenue. Those are really considered campus operations, even though they're not on campus. And so I realize some of that can get lost in communication, but the expectation is, for the most part, I mean, pretty across the board, that Penobscot County tests here at the campus testing site. And I know, again, I know we've had a lot of questions, and Fran's taken a lot of questions around that and probably is happy to continue to do so. And I'm sorry for the miscommunication from the campus level in that regard. Just making sure that it's hard to look at all the places. I know, again, I know there's a lot of information. I may not get it out this afternoon, but tomorrow is Wednesday. This is so weird because tomorrow is Wednesday. I'm used to doing these on Mondays. So I will send out an organizational email probably tomorrow, and I will attach this PowerPoint to it. If you have further questions that come up after, you know, you may spend a little more time with it, or if anything occurs to you, please let me know. Happy to answer them. And certainly, as you all know, I'll keep you posted on what we do hear from the budget situation and what that does look like. As I said, we're cautiously optimistic that there are going to be some more opportunities that come forth with some of the things that we've outlined as we look to the future. So I would be remiss if I didn't say it is a good chance to remind, you know, 87 people that we still have online. It's all about washing our hands, wearing our masks, keeping distance from each other. I haven't mentioned that in a while, but man, I know we're all COVID fatigued, but hopefully the light at the end of the tunnel will come sooner rather than later. But just remember to take care of yourself, take care of each other, and stay healthy. And again, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out, and hope everybody has a good night, because it's 4 o'clock and it's still light out, which is the best thing about February and getting done these extension connections. So thank you all for making the time this afternoon, and we'll certainly be in touch.
Thank you.